John Quinlan, the chairman of the Library Museum Committee. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming up here and participating in our presentation from Norfolk number 1 this morning. We're very pleased that Norfolk number 1 has become number 1 in the lodges that are willing to share some historical exhibits with the Grand Lodge Museum and Library. Those things that pertain directly to Freemasonry in the Commonwealth of Virginia. One of the things that I think can happen very easily as we go through the business of being Masons is to forget parts of our own rich history. That does not take away anything except for the fact that if I'm in Madison, I might not be so mindful of some of the rich Masonic history going on, or that has gone on, excuse me, in the Tidewater area, or for that matter, in Southwest Virginia. Norfolk number 1 has decided to take the lead to see that each and every one of us are made aware of the wonderful, rich Masonic history that we have in Norfolk number 1. I think I would be remiss. Well, it's really easy for me as the president of the board to take credit for all of this. But there's too many of you in here that know it wasn't my doing. I was blessed to have a member of our committee who has been on this tightly for quite some time, who did the coordinating, talked with Norfolk number 1, asked them if they would do it for us, and to make it happen and get to the point where we are today. Certainly I want to thank the master of Norfolk number 1 and the brethren, but I also want to recognize for his comments one of the members of the board who was very, very helpful, and that is Right Worshipfil George William Bill Thomas. Brother Thomas.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much for being here today. One of my jobs is I'm the treasurer, which means we need all the support and help each of the lodges can provide us. And before we turn it over to the master to introduce those that he has brought with him today, we want to just point out we've got a number of empty spots up there. And the reason some of the spots are empty is we have taken down some of these portraits and have sent them for conservation. And we really need the support of the lodges to help us continue with this project. For example, one of the missing spots is Governor Robert Brooke, who was one of the early Grand Masters of Masons in Virginia. I think he was a member of number 10. Marie's going to look up all of the history of each of these Grand Masters whose portraits are missing, so that we can check in with the different lodges and see if they might help us sponsor getting those pictures back up there. Another one that's missing is actually the original one of William Waller Henning. That's a copy there, but we think we can get a much better representation of what he looked like. He was the one that wrote the Henning's Laws and Statutes that are still referred to today. You see Edmund Randolph up there. He was Washington's Attorney General and Secretary of State. Below him is John Marshall, who was Grand Master of Masons. Missing is Thomas Matthews, who was Grand Master of Masons in Virginia from 90 through 92. Just so happens Matthews County was named after him. And he was a delegate to the Constitutional Convention and Speaker of the House of Delegates. Why do we tell you all of this? Is because of what Grand Master John Quinlan told you. Our history is rich, and we need to help future generations rediscover the greatness of Freemasonry. And we think that if every lodge goes back in their archives and looks to see what they have been about the last 2 centuries, they can create a little brochure, just as the brethren from Norfolk Lodge number 1. And it's a wonderful tool for introducing Freemasonry to young people. And that's how things kind of got started with Mark Walsh. Mark came here last year, and he was raised when? In May of this year. And So he asked to join Freemasonry, and he got a wonderful reception from the Brethren of Lodge Number 1, and they opened up their archives, and it just so happens that Mark is an experienced and trained archivist. He worked at the Library of Virginia, in fact, when I was on the board there, and now he's at Norfolk Southern Corporation. So there's a role for everybody in the lodge to help build the lodge and invite new members. So this little brochure can be used by Lodge Number 1 to hand out alongside of the for your information brochure to tell not only what Freemasonry is about, but what your individual lodge is all about. Well, I've talked too long, and I...
Would you let me talk for a second?
Yes, sir. And then you can. I'm going to let you introduce the Worshipful Master.
I just noticed that...
Do I need to give you that?
Yes, please. I just noticed that Marie is here taking photographs, and I certainly want to recognize her this morning.
Well, everybody knows
As a
Marie.
librarian, and I know that everybody knows her, but I wanted to introduce her. And also, Right Worshipful Brother Dave Silver, who's a member of our board, is here this morning, and certainly glad you're here, Dave. Thank you very much for your support. Brother Alan Atkins works as a advisor to the board, and most worshipful sir, we thank you for all you do for the board and all you do to help us. Many, many, many hats that you wear as Grand Secretary of the Grand Lodge of Virginia. Brother Bill is not here this morning. If he is, I don't see him.
GH is outside.
And GH is outside selling donuts and coffee. So please stop by and help yourself there. Now, having done that, I will turn it back over to Right Worshipful Brother Knowles to introduce the Worshipful Master, who, when he finishes, will introduce present the Grand Master.
We would be remiss if we didn't thank Most Worshipful Jeff Hodges and Most Worshipful Bill Rohr for the focus that you all have provided for this Grand Lodge Library Museum. You had a fundraiser earlier this year, and Jeff Hodges invited all of his appointees and Grand Line officers to a reception here the year before. So we feel that we're finally getting the attention that this wonderful resource is, and we're very grateful to the years and years of service of Marie, and she would welcome your lodge here anytime, and she's going to welcome representatives of all of the Grand Lodges here later this month, aren't you? The Grand Lodge Library. But without further ado, I give you the Worshipful Master of Norfolk Lodge, Number 1, David Odell.
Thank you. I can't tell you how I feel inside to be able to see some of not only Norfolk Lodge Number 1's history here before us, but also the history. This is the history of the United States. When I first became a member, one of the things that one of the past masters did was take me downstairs and take me into the vault in the temple and said, well, here's Number 1's safe, and we got into it, and there was all these old records in there, and they were just sitting in there wasting away. And I said to myself, boy, we really need to get in here and get some of this stuff preserved, or at least out for people to see what a part of history this is. I'm pleased to say that in my first term as master, I wasn't able to get anything accomplished with that because we didn't have anybody in the lodge that was a professional dealing with that, and I was very disappointed with myself when I left office that nothing had been done with all these wonderful records that we have. And then by fate, whether I did a good job or bad job first time around, they sent me back to the West to get it right, and then I got to serve as master again. But then I had the good fortune of having Mark Walsh joined the lodge, and he also recognized the value of what we had, and immediately came to me. We formed a committee, and the result of which you see here today. And I just want to tell you, the first time he opened the book and showed me the Marquis de Lafayette signature the night that he was made an honorary member of Norfolk Lodge #1, I mean, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. That's just really, that's a part of the United States history. So it's our pleasure to provide these records for the Grand Lodge to display, and we hope that more people will find pleasure in them, and hopefully maybe continue to generate interest in masonry in general. I'd like to introduce some of the members of #1 that came with me today. This is my senior warden and also a past master of Norfolk #1, Chuck Turner, Worshipfil Chuck Turner. Also my first secretary, and also Right Worshipfil the same year, Right Worshipfil Paul Wesley Pennybacker Sr. Also, where's Paul Miller? Oh, there he is. Also, my current secretary, and also a multiple past master of Norfolk Lodge #1, Paul Allen Miller. Worshipful, thank you for being here today. And this is one other fellow that I want to bring out here. Is none of this would have happened if it weren't for this man right here. He's one of our newer masons, Mark Walsh. He has absolutely been the driving force in this, and I am ever so grateful to have him. So, Brother Walsh, thank you for all you've done for Norfolk #1 and masonry in general. So, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen.